Good morning, listeners, from wherever you are. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a deep dive into an urgent security alert that impacts, well, nearly everyone who uses the internet. We're sifting through the latest from a trusted cybersecurity news platform, focusing on critical information that helps you stay safe online. Our mission today is to cut through the noise and give you the essential nuggets about a significant threat that's actively being exploited.
Yeah, and what we're focusing on is a recent Google Chrome update. It addresses a really serious vulnerability. What's particularly alarming about it, as you said, is that it's a zero-day exploit. That means attackers were already using it actively before a fix was even available. It's a stark reminder, really, of why staying informed and taking immediate action is absolutely crucial in today's digital world.
Okay, let's unpack this. We talk about 0 days quite a bit here, but this one, CVE-2025-6558, it really seems to embody that nightmare scenario and exploit active before Google even knew. So Google rolled out fixes for 6 security issues in Chrome on July 16th, 2025. But this one, this is the standout. Classified as high severity, CVSS score 8.8. Now, for our listeners, what does a CVSS score of 8.8 actually tell us? How dangerous is that?
Oh, 8.8 is extremely high. It puts it right up there with some of the most dangerous vulnerabilities we see. It basically signifies that it's relatively easy for attackers to exploit, and the potential impact is, well, significant. CVE 2025-6558 specifically involves something called an incorrect validation of untrusted input in Chrome's Angeli and GPU components.
Okay, incorrect validation of untrusted input in Angeli and GPU. That sounds like a real mouthful, something straight out of a tech manual. Can you maybe paint a picture? What does that actually mean for our browsers, for us? How does it go from a technical flaw to something putting our data at risk?
Absolutely. So, at its core, this flaw allows a remote attacker to potentially perform what's called a sandbox escape. And they can do this just by having you visit a specially crafted malicious HTML page.
A sandbox escape.
Right,
A
yeah.
sandbox is like that protective bubble, yeah. The thing's supposed to keep websites contained.
Exactly. It's a security boundary meant to isolate web content from your computer's operating system. Now, Angeli, that's the almost native graphics layer engine, is the crucial piece here. It acts as a kind of translation layer, helping Chrome's rendering engine talk to your device's graphics drivers, your GPU. When there are vulnerabilities in Angeli, it's like finding a weak spot in that translation process. It can allow attackers to bypass the sandbox, basically abuse low-level GPU operations to break out.
Wow. So if I'm getting this right, the truly insidious part, the really scary thing, is that simply browsing a malicious site could trigger a breach. Like no downloads, no clicks, no obvious signs. Is that what you mean by a silent compromise?
Precisely. That's exactly it. A sandbox escape like this means merely loading a malicious web page could potentially let an attacker break out of that browser security bubble and interact directly with your computer's underlying system. It's incredibly dangerous because, like you said, there are often no warning signs for the user, no downloads needed, no pop-up prompts. Just loading the page could be enough. And that makes it particularly potent for, highly targeted attacks where attackers want to remain completely hidden.
That is a terrifying scenario. Is there any silver lining here? Maybe how quickly it was found after exploitation started?
Well, the good news, such as it is that this 0 day was discovered and reported. It was found by Clement Lacine and Vlad Stolyarov from Google's Threat Analysis Group, or TAG. They reported it on June 23rd, 2025.
Google's Threat Analysis Group. What's the significance of them finding it? Does that point towards, I don't know, more sophisticated attackers, maybe?
It certainly suggests that. TAG is known for tracking highly sophisticated actors, often state-sponsored groups or advanced persistent threat, criminal organizations. So their involvement, coupled with Google confirming an exploit for CVE 2025-6558 exists in the wild, strongly implies that serious, well-resourced attackers were already leveraging this.
Okay.
What's also fascinating and quite concerning is that this isn't an isolated incident. Not at all. This is actually the 5th 0-day vulnerability Google has had to address in Chrome this year alone, either actively exploited like this one or demonstrated as a proof of concept.
The 5th?
Yeah, and it follows hot on the heels of another actively exploited Chrome 0-day, CVE 2025-6554, which they patched just 2 weeks prior. It highlights a clear and worrying trend.
The 5th 0 day this year in Chrome alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely feels like more than just an anomaly. So, okay, let's bring this back to the listener right now. What does this all mean for you? What's the absolute most important takeaway you need to act on to protect yourself against this immediate threat?
Look, the clearest message here is update your Chrome browser. Right away, like now if you can. For Windows and Apple macOS users, you need to update to version 1 through 8 point 0, point 7204, point 157, or point 158. For Linux users, the version is 138.0.7204.157. This isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's really the single most important step you can take to protect yourself.
Okay, update immediately. And how do we make sure we have the latest updates? For those who might not check this stuff regularly.
It's actually quite simple. In Chrome, you go to the More menu, that's the three vertical dots, usually top right, then select Help, and then click on About Google Chrome. The browser will automatically check for updates right then. If there's an update ready, it'll usually download it and prompt you to relaunch the browser to finish installing. It's a quick process, honestly, and provides really significant protection.
Right, simple enough. And what about those of us using other browsers that are built on Chromium? Like Microsoft Edge, Brave, Opera, Vivaldi. Are we exposed in the same way?
Yes, that's a great point. Because they share that same underlying Chromium engine, users of those browsers should absolutely be vigilant too. Keep an eye out for security announcements from their developers and apply the corresponding fixes as soon as they become available. It's kind of a chain reaction through the whole ecosystem.
Okay, so that's the immediate fix.
Yeah.
Update Chrome and keep an eye on related browsers. But stepping back, looking beyond this specific vulnerability, what does it tell us about the bigger picture? The landscape of browser security overall. Are there patterns we should be aware of?
That's an excellent question to ask. Issues like this one, CVE 2025-6558, they often fall under these broader categories tied to how browsers handle graphics and memory. We're talking about things like, well, the GPU sandbox escapes we just discussed, or maybe shader-related bugs, WebGL vulnerabilities. These sound pretty technical, I know, but essentially they relate to how graphics are drawn on your screen. And any flaw there can create these loopholes for attackers, ways to bypass the browser's security boundaries, potentially letting them mess with your computer's core systems. And while these types of bugs might not always grab the big headlines, like, say, a massive data breach, they are frequently resurfacing, especially in sophisticated, highly targeted attacks, often as part of what we call chained exploits, where attackers use multiple vulnerabilities in sequence to achieve their goal.
Right, chaining them together for greater effect. So for listeners who want to stay informed, maybe anticipate future threats, what specific types of security updates or vulnerability classes should we be keeping an eye out for? What might indicate the next big wave?
It's definitely worth monitoring news about general graphics driver flaws. Sometimes the issue isn't Chrome itself, but the underlying driver it talks to. Also, things described as privilege boundary bypasses. That's basically about attackers gaining higher access levels than they should have. And memory corruption bugs, particularly in rendering paths. These seemingly niche areas are often where the next wave of critical zero-day bugs might emerge, simply because they represent the most complex and therefore potentially most vulnerable parts of how a browser interacts with your computer's hardware.
It's really clear that this digital landscape is just constantly evolving, isn't it?
Yeah.
And staying updated isn't just a suggestion anymore. It's a critical, ongoing necessity. This deep dive into CVE 2025-6558 really highlights that continuous cat and mouse game between the security researchers trying to find flaws and the malicious actors trying to exploit them. The stakes just feel incredibly high.
Absolutely. And this whole situation, especially the frequency of these 0 days, raises an important question for you, our listener. Given this accelerating pace of exploits in core software like Chrome, what kind of proactive habits, beyond just hitting update, will be most essential for us to adopt as users to stay one step ahead in this constantly shifting digital landscape?
Something to think about, definitely. We hope this deep dive has given you a clearer understanding and equipped you with the knowledge you need to protect yourself. like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and see you next time.